Thank you. Good evening, invited guests, family, and friends. Tonight we are gathered here for a special presentation for a special person. And it's so pleasing to see so many of Arnie's friends here tonight. It would make him so proud. Shortly we will unveil a memorial plaque dedicated in honor of Arnie Goodman. To many of us, better known as the voice of the Chelsea High Red Devils. This plaque will be attached to the outside front entrance to our press box, which will now be known as the Arnie Goodman Memorial Press Box, reminding all of us that Arnie's 55 plus years in the calling of over 300 Chelsea High football games will forever be part of our school's history, and that his commitment and dedication to the student athlete will forever live on. In closing, I would like to thank our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Mary Bork, our school committee, with a special thanks to Rosemary Carlisle for taking the lead upon my request, and to the Chelsea Hall of Fame for their financial support in making tonight's dedication event possible. I'd like to call up our city manager for a few remarks, please. Jay Ash.
Thank you, Frank. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. I have not prepared remarks for tonight. And the reason that I have not prepared remarks for tonight is that I have thought about this night for the last 40 years. Now, some of you say, no, that can't be the case. But in and around 1973, I was an 8th grader at Sherkle School, and I had an English teacher by the name of Mr. Goodman. And Mr. Goodman's charge to his graduating classes, for those of you who went to Sherkle School, I was the last 8th grade graduating class. My father was the last 9th grade graduating class, but in my era it was 8th grade. So the 8th grade class was charged with putting together a class prophecy. And we worked all semester on the class prophecy, and a group of us got together and we tried to figure out, well, how would everybody come back to see each other? And we happened upon what we thought was a great idea at the time. It was going to be Mr. Goodman's funeral. And so we presented the idea to Mr. Goodman, and his initial reaction was one of great disappointment. Why would you want to mention my funeral? And so I was part of the group, and I said to him, because we thought it would be a time where we would all come back and celebrate you. And the light went off in his head. So for 40 years, I have been thinking about the prophecy that we all put together. And I'm sorry to say that today is the day to tell that story. By the way, as an aside, 40 years ago I thought I was going to be a doctor. Some of you, including Mr. Goodman, used to call me doctor. Kerry Schumann still does, so that's just an aside. I cannot be sad here tonight. For those of you who are good friends of Arnie, I think you join me. We certainly feel for Marlene and the family, and we know that you've experienced a great loss, and we share that loss with you. But as I was saying to Marlene earlier, it's a testament to a guy that when he passes, when he leaves us, that people have story after story after story to tell. And in Arnie's case, they were all good stories. And so I have my share of good stories. I've already shared one with you. I'll share some others. Arnie was my first basketball coach. So Jimmy Barbadi's here, Buddha's here. He was my first Little League coach, and I make fun of Buddha all the time because of his prowess as a baseball coach. I took up basketball. So I thank you and continue to thank you for that. But Arnie was my first basketball coach. Arnie introduced me to organized basketball. And To Arnie, it didn't matter that I was the tallest kid in the class or that I had some promise, because every kid on my Kentucky Colonels basketball team, and I think it was 5th grade, it might have been 6th grade, was important to Arnie. Carrie, do I have the right grades? And Arnie didn't care what your talent was. He didn't care what your faith was. He didn't care whether you were the best student in class or you needed extra help. He didn't care which side of Revere Beach Parkway you came from. What Arnie cared about was kids and helping kids to get the most that they could out of their educational experience and their life's experience. And so I remember Arnie going back to 5th grade basketball and what an impact he had on me growing up. As I said, I had him as an English teacher. I had him as a traffic squad coordinator. I had him as a gym teacher. And I mostly had him as a mentor. Arnie was somebody that I looked up to and said, there's a guy who came from Chelsea who succeeded in basketball and went on to college and did something with his life, and I want to be like Arnie. So he meant an awful lot to me. He meant an awful lot to a lot of people. Louis Perkins, who we all know is I'll say perhaps the greatest Chelsea High School basketball player ever. Sends his regrets that he couldn't be here. He had a family obligation in New Orleans. But he sent to me a message to share, and he talked about Coach Goodman. I talk about Mr. Goodman all the time, and of course it turned into Arnie as I got to know him later in life, but he had a message to share about Coach Goodman and how important Coach Goodman was in his life, that he taught Louis how to win, and unfortunately sometimes how to lose. And he taught Louis how to be a coach, and most importantly, he taught Louis what it meant to be a good person. And another tribute to Arnie is that a guy that has achieved the level that Lou Perkins has in his profession looks back at Arnie as being a mentor and somebody who taught him an awful lot. So, thinking about teaching and thinking about mentoring, this is for real. The statement that I'm going to say is for real. I think about 2 very important things that Arnie taught me back at Sherwood School. And at the time, they sounded silly. In fact, I would laugh about them all the time in the class. Arnie had a saying, some of you may be familiar with it, that there's no I in the word team. And he would say that over and over and over again. And now, as a city manager with 1,000 people that report to me, and as a former coach and being involved in everything, I really appreciate that statement, and I think about it all the time. And again, a testament to Arnie is that is a guiding principle of my life and all that I try to accomplish in life. The other thing that Arnie once said to me, and this one probably isn't as familiar as the last one, is Arnie said to me one time, when you point a finger at somebody, the thumb points back at you. And again, a principle that I think about all the time, if you blame somebody else for something, more often than not, you had something to do with it. So don't blame them. Instead, put out your hand and try to work with them. A testament to a great man is that he has a lasting impact on all those who come around him. You all have told me stories. We've shared stories. We've actually shared trips down to see Louis in Connecticut. Had some crazy rides in the car. And one of the great things about being around Arnie was that there was never going to be silence. He always had a story. And the story was always appropriate, it was always interesting. And no matter how many times you heard the story, he always made it seem as exciting as it was. And that's why his column in the Chelsea Record was as popular as it was for the many years that it was. The Sports of All Sorts was something that all of us who were involved in athletics in Chelsea had to read, but it also became a must-read for people who weren't involved in athletics either, because it talked about community, it talked about values, it talked about the importance that he and we all placed on being part of Chelsea. So he meant so very much to so many of us that it's a shame that we have to lose him. We like to think that he's in the big game in the sky. He's sitting at a table like he used to at Murray and Eddie's, having a big fat corned beef sandwich. By the way, the first time I saw Irony, he had a big fat corned beef sandwich and a tab next to it, a Diet Coke. I never figured that one out. So we know that he's looking down upon us. We know that he's proud of all that he's accomplished and all that he's left behind. And through the great gesture of the Chelsea School Department, he will never be forgotten. The football team is wearing decals on their helmets to show the importance that he was to the football program. And this great tribute to recognize him for his many years of contributions from the press side to Chelsea Athletics is really befitting a man of his stature. So on behalf of the Chelsea City Council, several councilors were here. I know that Calvin Brown was here, and I think Leo Robinson was trying to get back and forth. We have another meeting to go to right after this. On behalf of the members of the school committee and others in school government, I want to share with you the grief that we all have, but continue to say to you that when I think of Arnie, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to just continue to smile and make sure that as I point out all the good things that are happening in the community, I'll remember that that thumb is pointing back at me. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this program. So those of you who know the relationship I have with Frank, once again, he has filled me in on what I forgot, so thank you, Frank. We have a resolution here from the City Council that I will present. It's a resolution signed by Leo Robinson and all members of the City Council, and it reads as follows. Whereas on September 18, 2013, at the Chelsea High School cafeteria, Arnie Goodman, Kimberly Goodman, Cooperstein, thank you, and Carrie Goodman Cohen will be present at the dedication for the naming of the press box at the Chelsea Memorial Veterans Stadium for their late husband, father, and grandfather, Arnold Goodman. And whereas Arnie Goodman graduated Williams School in 1947, Chelsea High School in 1950, and Boston University in 1955, and went on to teach in the Chelsea school system for 37 years. And whereas Arnie Goodman for 14 years ran the intramural basketball league at the Shirley School, was a member of the Chelsea Little League, Chelsea Pony League, and founder of the Chelsea Softball League. And whereas Arnold Goodman was the voice of Chelsea sports for over 51 years, now therefore be it resolved on behalf of the citizens of Chelsea, we the members of the Chelsea City Council wish to go on record as to officially recognize the late Arnie Goodman as the official voice of Chelsea High School sports. So I'll present this to the family, and I share the sentiment that it contains. Thank you.
Before we proceed with the ceremony, I just want to clear something up. There's some confusion how long Arnie was really the voice of the Red Devils. I have a letter here, May 21st, 1997, and it says, Dear Frank, please be informed that I have decided to hang up my microphone as your public address announcer at the Chelsea High football games. I truly enjoyed doing this for 40 plus years. Good luck to you, the coaches, the players, and the teams yet to come. So that was dated 1997, and it's now 2013. I would say that's 55 years that Mr. Goodman served as the voice of the Red Devils. In fact, that one year that he did take off, I called him at home and I set up a meeting, and of course we went to a coffee shop, and I convinced him to return to the press box because it was not the same when he took that hiatus for 1 year. At this time, I'd like to call our superintendent of schools, Dr. Mary Portals. Doctor.
Good evening, and thank you for the honor of speaking with you this evening about your husband, your father, your grandfather, your friend, our teacher, because I was at Chelsea High when he was a teacher at Chelsea High, and then a colleague. I came back and I taught at Chelsea High when he was still there. I want to actually talk this evening to you, the family, because your husband, Marlene, your father, your grandfather gave so much to the Chelsea schools, to the community of Chelsea. He was Chelsea. And really, all of that work, all of that dedication, all of that love that he gave to us to make us a stronger, better community, a community that embraces their children, that embraces athletics, the scholar athlete, really was so important to building and laying a foundation of who we are today. So, this is a very small, symbolic act that we're giving tonight, that we're dedicating this press box. But I do want you to think about the future. So when your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren, your grandchildren, your children start asking about the family history, you will be able to drive to Chelsea and you're going to be able to show them something very concrete that talks about Arnie Goodman. And then you're going to tell the family story about who he was and how much he gave. So tonight, accept this as nothing more than something symbolic. But know behind that symbolism is a whole lot of love from Chelsea to you and to Arnie. Thank you. I'd like to call up Principal Joe Mulaney.
It's truly an honor to speak about Arnie tonight and what he meant to all of us and to our community. I've got a couple Arnie stories. I'm sure everyone's got a bunch of them. Jay, I hope this doesn't break your heart, but he called me doctor too. I never had any intentions of being a doctor, but so that might be something that he shared with a lot of people. I remember vividly, I started attending Chelsea High School football games when I was in 7th and 8th grade, and the announcer kind of grabbed me, that voice, and the pronunciation of names kind of grabs you and it holds on to you. And so, I'm a 12, 13-year-old kid and I'm wondering, who is that? What does that voice belong to? And so, a few years later, I met Arnie as a student in his gym class, and I was an athlete. And athletics obviously means an awful lot to Arnie, and he was one who always had a special interest in students who were athletes in the school. So I became the guy that always ran up to the cafeteria and got his coffee at gym class. I had gym class, I think, one year, like 3rd period, and I was a good time where he needed a cup of coffee, and so Malene, you went up to the cafeteria. Give me a cup of coffee, 1 saccharin. I didn't know what saccharin was. Okay, but I went up there and I told the ladies, and they knew exactly who it was going to. I'm not sure I even know what saccharin is now, but that's what Arnie got. So, I think there's no one better to have the name on our press box than Arnie. And for me, what it comes down to is commitment. It's a word that we use with our students all the time. It's a word that we use with our athletes all the time. And Arnie was a picture of commitment for years and years and years. He was committed to Chelsea, and he was committed particularly to Chelsea athletics. And there were times when he was real verbose about that, and there were times when he was very quiet about that. But he was always deeply committed to trying to do what was best for our athletes and to make sure that they had all the opportunities that every athlete across our state had. And I have a lot of respect for that. I think that it's something that our student athletes are able to look at Arnie when he would show up week in and week out to work in something he really enjoyed. And hopefully, over time, that is not going to be lost on our student athletes when they're able to ask, who is Arnie Goodman when they see that plaque on the side of the press box. We were able to share the story about a gentleman who is committed to the athletics in this community more than perhaps anyone, other than maybe a handful of people. So for me, the commitment is something that stands out. Marlene, you know the loss that you feel. Arnie is an interesting guy. He was a fun guy to be around. I will miss him. I've been here for 17 years, and to have someone else's voice bellowing across the football field is going to be pretty darn different, and we're going to miss Arnie, that's for sure. So I wish I could get Arnie one more coffee. I wish I could go out to the cafeteria and get him one sack. Maybe he's having one up in the big house in the sky. So for us, we're proud to say that it's the Arnie Goodman press box, and we're going to carry on that legacy the best we can.